What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another spoiler recap here at Big Gulp Media as our episode 3, which is titled Love It or Leave It. This will be premiering on April 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then streaming also on Max. Wow, this was a weird episode. To say the least. I would say that my first 2 episodes were my favorite. I don't know how you feel about this, Damien, but this one was a little bit more strange. Just way too many characters. I felt like it was just like a cluster, especially since we got to see RDJ as everyone. So that was kind of wild. What did you think of it?
I mean, I think this is even less action and a lot more comedy. I thought this was probably the funniest episode because just remember, kids, just because you're a spy doesn't mean you're good at anything else. And this episode shows us that the captain is not good at other things aside from being a spy. He can't date. He can't execute a man. He can't wear a wig properly. Like, we are introduced to the incompetence of the captain aside from being a spy. So this was high on how I would call it cheesy comedy, a lot of hijinks, a lot of shenanigans, a lot of sitcom situations, like we'll talk about with the Major's mom having tea, getting caught in there, when you're trying to do a stakeout, things like that. So, but at least, at least we got Bond in a good mood. At least he's in a better mood now. I was worried about our boy.
That's true.
The first 2 episodes. So now, apparently, he's got martial arts training that, again, military training that we didn't know about, like assassin training, because he knows how to kill people, which I would never have thought after episode 1, the family man, Bond, the family man is now Bond the murderer. But that's what we got. So it was light on action, high on comedy, a few WTF moments as we'll get into, but that's for me. That's the big takeaway.
And what I like about the episodes is that they kind of they trickle all together, right? There's no weird time gaps in between the two where it's like, oh, we fast forward a week later, here's the next episode. It's literally where we left off in episode 2. We picked back up. They're still in the car in episode 3, trying to cruise the neighborhood. And eventually they end up at the general's house. And he asked a dumb question, I guess you could say, because he pops up at the general's house at 12 at night, the captain and Bond. And they show up and they're like, hey, should we do it? He's like, why are you asking this stupid question? Just don't do it. Figure it out. And literally, we know now that the general doesn't want to have to think or even lift a finger. This dude just wants people to do things for him. So we just, that's why he gave him that bogus title of being his advisor. I forgot what
the communications liaison or something like that. Yeah.
Communication advisor. I didn't know communication advisors deal with murder. I didn't know that was part of
scrubbing walls.
The job qualification. Nor scrubbing walls. There's he needs to really look into the job description because I'm pretty sure he's not getting paid fairly.
Other duties as assigned, sir.
Utility player is what he is right now. But so I mean, Captain is still kind of going through the contemplation of trying to figure out, should we kill Major Dumpling? That's what I'm calling him now because we know him as the Major Dumpling. But now him and Bond are really getting into, I guess, the nitty-gritty of trying to figure out how can we execute this plan the best way possible. I mean, Bond is obviously fully on board with killing Major Dumpling because, I think we talked about it last recap, and he has basically snapped out of this trance-like state all of a sudden. And I think they have a car conversation where they're staking out the gas station where Major Dumpling works at. Just trying to figure out what his day-to-day is. So that way they can, get away with this flawlessly. And Bond all of a sudden is just the most talkative person in the world, super excited to talk about oh yeah, we're going to do this. My favorite part about killing a man is, and we're like, wait, what do you mean? Your favorite part? Like, yeah, your wife and kid just died. You were at a tea coffee shop with us a couple weeks ago having a good time. Were you surprised to see that there is another
Yes.
side to Bond?
Yes, the switch was flipped. And
Yeah.
the captain even references it. The captain even
Mhm.
says, seems that I'm not the only one keeping secrets, because
Yeah.
it seems like Bond had a secret past that even I didn't know about. But
Right.
and I mentioned in our last review, something sparked in Bond after we found out he had to kill a man. It's like it's almost as if his army or whatever military training he may or may not have had, like it's like the Winter Soldier. Murder? I'm ready
Yeah.
to kill. You know, it took him
Now,
out of
one
his
word. That was it.
malaise. Just murder. Took him out of his malaise. He's no longer mourning his wife and child in this
Right.
episode. He's not having PTSD moments. It's
Right.
just, yo, let's kill this dude. Which for
Mhm.
me, this is a complete 180 degree aside from the family man stuff. You recall this man was shitting his pants, right? Like
It was.
he was
He was
incontinent. He
literally
had to be
shitting his
taken
pants.
care of by the captain. So all of a sudden now you
Right.
don't, it's like Rain Man. All of a sudden now you don't need, to be taken care of. Like what just happened here? Because we got to kill somebody. But to
Right.
answer your question, completely surprised. Flip that switch.
Yeah.
And now Bond, and this is what I'm going to call him. He's a low-level mob informant. That's how it seems like to me. Like he's the
Yeah.
he does the wet work that the mob wants you to do, the fixer.
Yep.
And I think he likes it.
Yep.
So the question
yeah.
I have, are they going to kill more people during this series?
I would think so, right? I mean, I feel like that's going to be their new job. I mean, obviously,
Communication through
the captain. Captain is going to be the brains of the operation, which doesn't seem like it's working too well. But and then Bond's going to be the muscle, because we saw later on in this episode, we'll talk about it. He had to finish off a job or kind of, get the job under wraps, because the captain's fumbling the bag at this point. I mean, he talks a good game.
He doesn't want to kill.
He
doesn't want to kill.
No,
he didn't want to kill.
He has a lot of
Major
reward.
Dumpling, right?
Yeah.
He didn't want to do that. He just wants to do spy work. Because something else just triggered my memory. Remember, and we'll talk about what happened this episode, but remember in the first episode when he was the captain was crying in the theater at the interrogation of the woman on stage.
Yes.
And you and I were like, you thought one thing, I thought, oh, this is cinema, but like for me, it's Claude, like, yeah, he's in the shit, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm getting a sense of the tears are more, oh shit, I'm out of my league. Like this is way out of what I signed up for, to seeing people die for the cause. He didn't really know it was that deep. So, and we'll get into what happened later this episode, but that's just another little wrinkle in the captain's facade, because we're introduced to him in episode 1 that he's this cunning, daring spy, right? Smooth operator. But as the layers, as we saw this episode with the eggs, the layers are peeled back. And the captain seems more inept than ever before. Like he's not good at dating. He's not good at murder. He's not good at almost spying at this point, because he got caught by the mama, by Dumpling's mom.
Right.
So remember how I mentioned the narrator that is not reliable, right? And he's the one telling this story.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one telling the story in the camp. So is he making himself out to be like better than what he is, or is he playing the fool in the story? Because this is all secondhand knowledge that he's just spewing as he tells these stories. This may or may not be actually what happened. So it's keeping me guessing. I'll say that.
Yeah, same. And I feel like the more the more we see him writing this story out and trying to give it to the I think his name was Commander Comrade. He doesn't have a name either, right? We see
no one has a name in the show.
The POW camp, which is obviously in the north of Vietnam. His name is Commander Comrade, and I'm like, okay, another one, great. And I feel like he's just creating this story to stay alive at this point.
Yes,
because essentially it just seems like, all right, well, he just, like you said, just spewing out information, like maybe this whole entire thing is made up, I'm not sure, but it is very entertaining from what I'm seeing so far. So so like we were saying, that we pick right back up, and now they're deciding, okay, we have to do some recon work Major
Major Dumpling.
Dumpling at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So of course they're having a little conversation in the car, and come to find out, not only are they going to have to kill Major Dumpling, but now they're going to have to attend Major Dumpling's mom's longevity party, right? And they're like, first off, I'm like, what's a longevity party? And it's funny because Major Dumpling comes to the liquor store, the General's liquor store where Bond works at, and gives him an invitation. And it's funny the words that he says to Bond, because he hands him the invitation and he's like, oh my gosh, wow, your mom's turning however old she was. And he says, yeah, it's crazy. She's probably going to outlive me.
Hey.
Yeah, she probably will. Now we yep, that's exactly probably what's going to happen at this point. So I thought that was wildly ironic to hear. I mean, great cinema though, like you said in the chat while we were watching it. But yeah, they add little like nuances in the whole entire show that make you really think about what's going on. We get to fast forward a little bit further as we're still doing these stakeouts, but he's trying to get more exclusive into his day-to-day routine, right? So he goes to Bond's house, of course, while he's not home, and he's trying to figure out, all right, what's the best place to kill him, where we shoot him at, what we do. And Bond is just going weirdly and kind of creepily into details about how he loves to kill people, or like what part. He's like, you know what I hate most is when you shoot him and then the brain gets in your mouth. What Bond, what is going on? I'm like, but wait, time out. And it's crazy, like you said, we don't see anything about his wife or child in this episode. It's completely a 360. We were all about them. Family Man first episode, mourning them the second episode. Cold Stone Killer, the actual Bond, is now coming to fact. Yeah, I'm done. Forget my life before. I'm just ruthless. I'm the Punisher now. He probably thinks himself as the
Vietnamese Frank Castle,
Vietnamese version of the Punisher. That's what it looks like. That's what it seems like. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is getting kind of crazy. And I think in the next scene, do we actually see Claude show up, or he shows up after the party?
No, Claude shows up after. No, Claude shows up when the captain goes to get a date for the party, because remember, the general, somebody said to the captain, you need to have a date. Oh, it was it was the mom.
Oh, the aunt, right? Or the mom. Yeah.
Dumpling's mom. Dumpling's
they call
mom.
her auntie, I guess.
Yeah. So again, preface, guys. While on this stakeout, the mom sees them in the courtyard, Bond and the captain, and invites them in for tea. Remind you, these are the two dudes that are going to kill her son, but they're there just scoping out the scene. Okay, we're going to do it here. And then she comes out of nowhere and she recognizes them, obviously. She's like, what are you guys doing here? Mm-hmm. Oh, we came, but if he's not here, we can go. And she's like, you came all this way for nothing? Have some tea. And you even called it. You said, watch them have tea with her. And then you get to see the guilt.
Yeah. She looks so sad too, though, right?
She's so sad because she wants everybody to be happy. Because remember, she still feels guilty for being one of the people elected to go to America and not the major's daughter. I believe it was one of his daughters that was left behind.
Right. Yes.
So she's still like, I shouldn't have been here, but my son's doting over me, et cetera, while he has his own kids and family. So the auntie speech, bring a date to my party. Okay, you're too handsome to not have a date. You need to bring a date. So what does the captain do? He goes to good old Sandra Oh's character and stalking her, essentially. And it's like, hey, how's it going? What are you doing Saturday? But he does it in such a dramatically corny way. I wanted to punch him because he's holding her hand. He's like, have you ever heard of like a celebration of life ceremony? And she's like, no. And then she's messing with him at this point, because now it's like, okay, he's letting his inexperience show. She's like, so I'll go, but how are you going to introduce me? What are you going to call me as?
Right.
Yeah,
of course.
So she's messing with him. So she agrees to go. And then she goes. And then out of nowhere, where the fuck did Claude come from with a dog? sashaying his
How
way
did
into
he
the
get to
parking
that
lot.
address? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Yeah.
Right. Which
And,
lead me to believe, like I told you in our
and I
group
thought it was
chat, I thought Claude was
Mhm.
spying on the captain.
Right. Which would make sense, honestly, because that's what I thought too. But the address that he showed up at was that Sandra O's
Yes.
character's address,
Mhm.
which is even
Do they live in the same
stranger.
place?
So it's like, uh-oh. Yeah, like, all right, if yeah, it's like, all right, well, if Claude has seen me coming out of here or going here, where else has he seen me going to? You know?
Correct.
And it kind of makes me think like Claude's character is probably underestimated, you know, because he seems like this
Bonehead.
weirdly odd older man that, you know, has, you know, not that much free time and he just, you know, does whatever he wants throughout the day. But obviously he's dressing up as what he called it, a gay man in San Francisco walking his dog. Nobody's paying attention to me. So he could have been anywhere, honestly, and watching all sorts of different things that the captain's been doing leading up to this point. So
Right.
fingers crossed for the captain, man, because he's obviously not outnumbered, but he's way over his head at this point, though.
Walls are closing in. Walls are closing in on him.
Very, very quickly on him. But honestly, I mean, I think we both see it, but we see a sense of he's overwhelmed. Captain is overwhelmed because obviously he's not only one out of his element, but he's, like you said, he's over his head. Like he's drowning right now, trying to figure out new lies to cover up what, you know, he's going to end up doing next at this point.
Right.
But I think we get to see them. I mean, they're still doing their stakeouts throughout the week, and I believe the next part that we end up seeing is they're staking out the gas station that he works at, and it's kind of late at night. But why? Sorry, let's rewind back. Sorry. Well, so while they're at the mom's or at at the major's house, right, and they're having the tea with the mom starts bringing in all this exported candy.
Yes.
From Saigon. So here as a, you know, as a witness, because originally this was just a made up lie by the captain. And now it's like leading into all these different entrails of actual factual information that are showing that, okay, maybe he does have like an exporting business, and how are they so wealthy? And, you know, how is this becoming right now? And come to find out is he actually just wants to be an entrepreneur. Major Dumpling, that is. So he's taking candy and he wants to sell candy to have a candy business. We find out a little bit later on as they are staking out the gas station that his business partner shows up. This dude looks shady, right? I'll be honest with you. And I'm thinking like, okay, he's about to unload hella drugs into this gas station. And come to find out they're just shipping candy.
It's candy
to Saigon. Yeah, it's literally candy. So they're selling like Three Musketeers, Snickers, all this different stuff.
Expired candy.
Come to find out, there's expired candy. So they're marking the boxes, I believe, as going to Korea, and nobody's checking them because they have like little American bumper stickers on the front. So they're just like, oh, we're sending them to Korea. But when actually they're actually going back home to Saigon, and he's selling it back to his own people at a higher rate, but they're expired. So he's getting a discount on them, but he's making money back off of what he purchased.
He
Smart business tactic, because he's really, really bought into this concept of the American dream as well, you could say.
Yes, I agree.
Do you feel like his character seems a bit more naive than all the other characters, Major Dumpling?
No, you have to remember the time. This is the 70s.
Yeah.
This is the height of the American dream for immigrants, was like, let's say the 70s, where anybody can make something of themselves if they work hard enough. And he even says during his speech when he's caught later by the captain, it's like we can either stay the bastard, or he calls himself like a derogatory term, you know. So he says you got to get rich to do things in America. So this is how he plans to start, is to do this. So I don't want to say he's naive. I think he understands the rules of the game. It just comes in a package that looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy. And, you know, we don't really expect that. But again, this is the 70s. You find your lane, you pick your lane, and you stick to it. And he had a very profitable expired candy business. He was making money and
Yeah.
he still had a full-time job. So he had his side hustle. He was trying to make a better life for him and his family. So I can't
Yeah.
fault him. So I'm not going to sit here and say he was naive. I'm going to sit here and say we as the audience kind of thought he was this bumbling buffoon, when in
Yeah.
reality he was a lot smarter than we realized he was.
Yeah. And honestly, remember he was adding these people to the list of who was going to stay and who was going to go. And he wanted people that were competent but not overly competent. Come to find out, Major Dumpling is smarter than a lot people give him credit for. And it actually showed in here because he's able to take, you know, something that could easily be disregarded as trash or you know, garbage. And he's able to bring him and his family into this American dream. And we got to see that when we got into the next scene and we saw the actual party, the longevity party that everyone was invited to. So they get to this longevity party, and I believe it's in I want to say it's a Chinese restaurant. I can't tell for sure though, but it
probably
just seemed
is.
like
I don't want to
like a
assume.
banquet hall,
It seemed
right?
like a family banquet hall.
Yeah, I don't want to assume. I'm just gonna say it was like a banquet hall, right? And everybody's looking around like, or I would say this, the captain and Sophia, Sandra Oh's character, are looking around like, yo, how do you guys afford this? Are you sure you're refugees? She says.
Sure you're immigrants? Yeah.
And and he's like, and he's like, yeah, I guess so. But he's also thinking like, oh man, this is really making the guy look guilty as well. Like it's honestly just adding more fuel to the fire right now because, all right, one, you got this great job. You got this exported candy coming in. That's weird. You got all this extra revenue coming in as well. And now you're throwing a huge party that probably costs hundreds of dollars.
You're showing out.
You know, yeah, most people wouldn't be able to afford. I mean, I get it. He loves his mom. That's why she got on the list.
Yeah.
And he wants to do everything for her. But I'm like, he has no idea at all what type of danger he's putting himself in because, of course, he's spending his money. He's thinking like, you know, I didn't know I had enemies within my circle. You know, they're trying to get me at this point.
No one did.
So, yeah, no one did, honestly. This manhunt is between Bond, Captain, the General, and Claude loosely on the outside. So it's kind of weird to see, but there's a lot of smiling in the face as well as backstabbing preparing to happen at this point. So it's kind of wild. And then if you want to describe the next character that we get introduced to as we get this
are you talking about our favorite news reporter?
Yeah, my man.
Okay, so last episode, the reporter who got into the tete-a-tete with the captain shows up, and I don't know how he got invited, but he starts to schmooze Sandra Oh's character while she's, you know, like, oh, who are you? How you doing? And he's just trying to like talk, and then he goes over to have a drink with her, and they're laughing at the captain, or at least the captain thinks they're laughing at him. And it just seems as if everywhere you turn around, this dude just puts his nose in his camera where it doesn't belong. You know, like Jimmy Olsen, like, bro, what are you doing? And he gets on my nerves because he looks like a serial killer of the 70s.
He does.
So he's getting on my nerves. So we're introduced to him. Hasn't improved much since his first appearance because
no, he still sucks.
What's his face? The captain hates him because Sandra Oh's character says, hey, I talked to your friend. He's pretty interesting. He goes, that is not my friend. he is not my friend. But we are introduced to the captain's friend, which happens to be the general's daughter. And the general's daughter has grown up pretty well.
Crazy what 2 months will do, right?
It's like, wow. You know, because she was all like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. And she goes, I'm not the same girl that went to university, yada, yada, yada. And now all of a sudden, because remember, when they left Vietnam, she was like a teenager, and he was giving her shit, right? So in typical dramedy fashion, the little sister has matured. And it's like, oh, how you doing? But it's the general's daughter, which makes it even worse. So you could tell she's somewhat interested in the captain, but I think he's just more shocked that she got a glow up and he doesn't know how to operate to the point where he puts his foot in his mouth twice.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, this is when he describes Sandra Oh's character to the general's daughter. He's like,
Right.
oh yeah, this is my boss and my girlfriend. It's like, oh no. And
like,
right before that, he's like, oh, this is the general's daughter. I mean, so and so. It's like, bro, what are you doing? So
yeah,
it goes to show before you cut in. It goes to show the level of ineptitude that we didn't think the captain had, but the cracks are starting to show because he doesn't know, because I feel as if he's having an identity crisis in more ways than one, not just, North versus South Vietnam. It's more, is America's actually cool? Like, wait a minute. This is the America I kind of fell in love with as a college student. Maybe there's something to this,
right.
So that's what I got from those two characters. And obviously they're all poking fun at the captain. And, the major's doing this speech for his mama. And it's so beautiful to commemorate her long-lasting life. And like you said, he thinks that she's going to outlive him.
Yeah.
Truer words have never been spoken. But we get a surprise invite to the festivities. And it turns out it's actually one of the sponsors of the event. So if you want to ask, how can you afford such a lucrative event? It is Robert Downey Jr. once again playing another character. What's that, like 3 now? Where it's
three,
like, okay,
3 so far. Yep.
This is 3 so far at this point. And this is, as you described it, this is like a politician. I think it's a governor of California. And how you described him was he seems like he's George Bushian, where everything is about America and we did this. I was back to back with the Viet Cong, and even you said in our group chat, you said, bro, you lost the war. Stop trying to act like you won.
Let it go. Let's move on.
Just let it go. But he commits a snafu, giving the major's mom, we'll say auntie, giving auntie a knife to commemorate the battles in the jungle, I believe. And it's what? Why? What is wrong with you? So what do you think of this new Robert Downey Jr. character?
Man, it's just we got to talk about Robert Downey Jr.'s range, man, on this show, because the guy he's playing like none of the characters are what similar at all, and he's able to hit and nail all of them. I mean, granted, they all look like Robert Downey Jr. Like it's not like I'm like I got squint my eyes like, is that Robert Downey Jr.? No,
we know.
He either got different color eyes or hair. That's the guy, But him to be able to voice these many characters and to bring out these various different personalities for all of them is kind of wild to see. I mean, later on we'll actually get a 4th character that he's going to play in this episode, and I'm not sure if there's any more. I'm still waiting for him to pop up as the French dad to the captain at this point. So
which we think is what it is. I think that's what we think.
It's gotta be, man. I'm just like
the character is called it's Congressman Goldwyn. Ned Godwin. Napalm Ned, as you said.
Earlier. Ned. Okay. Napalm Ned. Yeah, that is not a great name to have.
America.
But yeah, so we get to see a little bit of him in this episode, and of course, in true American war story fashion, or kind of just over the top, he talks about his scars and how he was in the trenches. But like you said, he gives the auntie, like you said, we'll call it that. Yeah, he's like, I thought his hand didn't move, right? Because he kept having it like this, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's like hurt from the war, or maybe it's a prosthetic. It just looks really, really, and he was grabbing things with it. I was like, oh, that's not. He put the mic in it, and the hand's still like that. I was like, oh, this is strange. It's not moving. But he gives the auntie a knife, and everybody in the crowd is like crazy. So towards the end of this, this little scene, they all get together, and like you said, the nerdy reporter makes this weird little comment. And Sandra Oh's character is obviously like, hey, I think your friend's trying to flirt with me. He seems pretty interesting. And he says, he's not my friend. But simultaneously, we get to see the general's daughter tries to like sneak in on the other side, right, of the captain to like, and they have like a weird little glare at each other. And I'm like, you're gonna get yourself in trouble, son. Okay, I can already see it right now. Because she obviously is, like you said, the girl next door that just grew up in. Now you are that babysitter.
Now
She
how you
wasn't
doing?
old enough to date, and now you're old enough. Yeah. Uh-oh, you in trouble, dude. And it's not like he a smooth guy. You know, if he's telling squid stories in episode 2 to get a girl, imagine the story he's gonna tell this time.
The squid story. You just reminded me of the squid story. Oh
You
God.
can't forget about the squid, bro. Squid fucker. That's crazy.
I said that block out.
So yeah, so after this scene, we get to kind of we're going back to work, basically, is what's happening. And now that they know about the candy business, they kind of want to use that as, or the captain's trying to use that more as collateral, as a reason why to take him out, just to cover his own ass at the end of the day. But while this is going on, he's still having these. I guess this is all just a flashback, though, of course, because we're still seeing him in the POW camp, talking and reporting back to the commander. Comrade. One of the two is, one of his names is backwards. But I'm pretty sure it's Commander Comrade. And he's basically trying to tell him about the story of what's going on and what happened throughout this time. And he's kind of, deliberating whether, I guess, he should fully commit to what his guilt is, or what exactly has put him in this situation. Because he obviously feels guilty about the betrayal of Major Dumpling. But there's also one other character that we get introduced to. I like I said, this episode probably introduced more characters, I think, than all but the first episode, to be honest with you, which are all new characters. So I believe, did they go to Dumpling's house first, or was he talking about the backstory of the Watchmen in the interrogation room next?
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I forgot about that one.
I
forgot.
Yeah,
I didn't know
that was
that
the only
was
thing
his
I was going
name.
to get at. Yeah, so he called him a Watchman, and then what's it called? Was called Major Dumpling. So that, we knew that already, but those were the two people that he essentially had taken out. And I don't know what the girl was called, but she wasn't included in the conversation between Commander Communist, or Communist Commander.
Commander Comrade,
Comrade, sorry, Communist. So in this next scene, we get to see that, all right, they've finally figured out the best plan, because Major Dumpling made a mistake by giving him information about, oh yeah, man, I'm super excited about 4th of July. It's supposed to be the 4th of July before the bicentennial, so the skies are just going to be full of fireworks during this time.
Yep.
So they thought in their head, they're like, and he was like, fireworks, which are made by China as well. I was like, we know, dude. Good knowledge. Thanks. So we're like, all right, great. So they got an idea. They're like, okay, we could easily shoot him, and people will mistake it for fireworks.
Exactly.
What made him think, you know what, I need to put a wig on to really make this good?
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about that.
Really, right? Let's talk about that.
No. Yeah. So all right, kids. I'm not saying I'm an assassin here, but if I'm gonna take a man out, right? If I've been plotting for a long time to take this man out where he lives, and I'm going under the guise of the 4th of July and the fireworks, but you don't want him to know it's you, why would you wear a wig that makes you look like Ken Masters from Street Fighter? Like, we know it's the captain. You have to be dumb, blind, and deaf to not know it's the captain trying to sneak up and be like,
right.
And so they're about to do it. They're about to pull the trigger, literally, on this mission. Dumpling sees him. I'm like, just almost like greets him at first, like, hey bud, what's going on?
Yeah.
Why you got that wig on for? What's going on?
Yeah.
But
he's
then
like, Halloween?
after what?
I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. And then after what? Maybe like 5 minutes of tete-a-tete back and forth. Dumpling knows the score at this point.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, oh, he knew this was what the deal was. So we're left with, as the audience, seeing the fear not in Dumpling. We're seeing the fear in the captain. because I don't think he's ever killed a man.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know
No,
what
not
to
like that.
do. So he pulled his gun out first, but then he had this bag, this paper bag with a smiley burger face on it because he didn't want to see the man's face when he killed him, which comes up when they kill inevitably Dumpling. I'm talking about, oh, you can't kill a man while looking dead in his eye, huh? So like, you a pussy. Like, pardon my French, y'all, but like that's basically what he's saying.
Basically,
when it's time to gun up or shut up. So what made me laugh, and I told you in the chat, the durian fruit makes its return.
Yeah, it just keeps coming back.
My man Dumpling took this bagged durian fruit, realizing that the captain wants to kill him, and he just, after the captain shoots him in the stomach, whacks him with the durian fruit and tries to get away. And I'm thinking, oh, this is so bad. Like, he's gonna get away. And who comes out from nowhere? Kung Fu Bond. Wapa.
Kung Fu Bond, yep. Saving the day.
They saving the day. And he's just bang, bang, bang on Dumpling, to the point where he's like, dude, he's telling the captain, let's go. Like, let's finish this job. And then the captain goes, I can do it, Bond. Get out of the way. And then Bond gets out of the way. He still can't do it. So we get a lot of back and forth. And that's why I'm at the beginning of the review. A lot of comedy, a lot of shenanigans is happening. But eventually, we get to a point where it's do or die time. The captain's pretty much in tears. You got Bond saying, let's hurry up and let's get this done. And then you got Dumpling lying on the floor bleeding, realizing it's over. I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
Because he's begging for his life after that, like right before that happens. So they're trying to time it to the fireworks, but we kept seeing that Auntie kept moving back and forth with all the action. So you didn't know if she was going to see it. I thought she caught a glimpse, so finally,
I think
it was Bond. Yeah. Bond throws out like a firecracker to say, F this, we got to get this done.
Yeah.
And the firecracker's going off, and then other fireworks are going off, and then the captain finally pulls the trigger and he kills Dumpling. And again, I just want to reiterate, Dumpling was innocent. This was an innocent man to a degree.
He did nothing.
That got killed just because he had to keep his cover. And we haven't addressed this. The captain has been waiting for Mon to tell him, don't do it. Like, he wants an out, but he hasn't gotten a response from Mon for a while. So he's kind of taking it as the, all right, like, he's not responding. That means he wants me to go through with it. And we'll get to the rest of it, but there's a point later where the message finally comes from Mon. And the question is, do you think this is necessary? So in other words, Mon didn't think this was a good idea. The captain didn't think this was a good idea.
Right.
This wasn't a good idea. And yet, to save his own self,
not at all,
he had to kill an innocent man.
Yeah, I think that was such a weird and pivotal point in the show where it took a crazy turn, because essentially I thought Major Dumpling was going to get away, right? I think he did too. We watched him, we were like, all right, he's going to escape. How they going to, like, cover this up? Like, we were just joking and the gun went off. Like, I don't know, like, how are we going to figure this out? And I think it's so crazy because the Major's first assumption was, okay, you know what? I'm sorry. I'll cut the general into my profits, right?
Right.
He was like, I'll cut him into my profits. Maybe he found out, I got a candy business and he's upset.
He thought it was about the side gig.
No, it's not about that at all. It's there's a lot more to this, it's because you're being pinned for something you have nothing to do with. And essentially you have to be the martyr for the situation, because if not, the whole mission is off at this point. And I kept thinking in my head, I was like, why didn't Bond just do it? He love get dirty so much, right? Why his ass just get out there? You sending blonde haired Ken out there to go, kill what's it called? And I'm like, he is not equipped to do something like this. But I think it's because the captain talks a good game. Every time they say, like, hey, have you ever done this? You ever done that? He's always like, yeah, of course.
Sure.
Of course, I killed tons of people. You ain't killed
You
nobody.
ain't killed
You need to go sit
nobody.
down somewhere and lie. Your lying self is gonna get killed by talking about this. Because if he had the upper hand, I think he would have got beat to death with a Dern fruit at this
Yes.
point. That's what it
That
seemed
Dern
like.
fruit was going to kill him. Yes.
He was
If Bond
was
wasn't
this
there,
close.
if Bond wasn't there, I honestly believe the Major would have killed him with the Dern fruit.
Yeah.
So let's just to move the plot along a little bit here,
life.
guys. I just want to let y'all know that
Mhm.
there is a funeral. The general has to
Yep.
speak the eulogy at the funeral, and he asks the captain to write the eulogy. So furthering Cam's point that this general doesn't want to do a goddamn thing.
Nothing,
he is the epitome of someone in power that delegates everything. And then you're like, what do you do exactly aside from delegate? So
yeah,
he gives a speech. We get to see the Major's kids, his wife. The kids are named Broccoli and Spinach. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That's it's the 70s. What can you do? Blow and other things. So he gives the wife, I believe, like I guess it's a payment or something,
right?
Like a gift, like, oh, we're sorry for your loss, and here's some money to get you on your way. So we think all is sweet, right? Everything's all hunky dory, like case closed. Let's move on. So now what was it? Fast forward? No, it was a flashback to when Claude had the captain in an interrogation room with what was the person you just referenced? What was his name?
The Watchman.
The Watchman
was his name.
So I know I told you in our chat, like I couldn't really make out what was going on, but I'll try to explain if I fill in the blanks if you want to.
Gotcha.
So this dude was being held captive by Claude, and Claude was like, "Look, we're not getting in there with this dude. Like he's from your like neck of the woods. Like you handle it. Like I got this." So something happens that you confirmed for me in this interrogation where Claude can't see the front of the captain's face. There's no security cameras. It's literally just you see handshaking.
He's like in that dark room behind you.
Yeah, you're just seeing like you think something's happening, but in reality, he's like, "Hey, man, how's it going? You good? All right." So what winds up happening is what winds up happening is just like in episode 1 with the woman that called the captain comrade. This guy notices, and I asked you, I was like, "Oh, did he just? Oh, he admitted to him that he's in on it too. Like, I'm one of you. Like, I got you." But what I gathered from it, and fill in the blank if I'm wrong, this kind of seemed like you need to sacrifice yourself for the sake of the mission, or that he wanted to sacrifice himself for the sake of the mission, just like the girl in episode 1. Which leads me to believe one major thing that no one's brought up yet in our reviews or in the comments. The only one that's not willing to die for his movement is the captain. Everybody's willing to die for the cause.
Yeah.
Except the captain. So he asked him, "So, are you going to turn state's evidence?" Like something like that. He goes, "I'll do it on one condition. You got to get me some hard-boiled eggs."
Yeah.
And then the hard-boiled eggs come, and now we find out what happened with the eggs. The weird mental tick that he has with eggs, the captain. It's because this dude took the eggs, choked on the eggs to die for the cause, for the like Hail Hydra. And what winds up happening is that I don't think the captain knew it was going to be that severe. And it wound up happening to the point where Claude's telling him, like, "Yo, give him the Heimlich maneuver." And he's giving the Heimlich maneuver. Egg flies out. The dude's already dead. So we've lost how many countrymen for the captain to keep his neck clean? So, and again, Claude is like, "Good job. It sucks, but good job." And then he eats the egg that the guy had in his throat. And then, there's more shenanigans between Claude and the captain too. And I want you to explain this part because it was kind of weird to me at first. Claude and the captain are in the car together, right? And there's a discussion about the mission's done. Now that Dumpling's finished, we can move on about our lives and move on to the next one. So what exactly is happening in that conversation with the captain and with Claude?
Yeah, so this kind of goes back to the title of the show because before he sees Claude, or we see Claude in the picture, Claude says something in the background. It says, "Love it or leave it," right?
Yes.
And then you see, all right, they're walking together in the after the funeral in the cemetery. So they get ready to get into Claude's car, and he's like, "Hey, you made a good choice." He's like, "Well,
Hmm.
how did you figure I made a good sending out to Saigon, right?" Which
Hmm.
he presumes that he was sending along with his candy bars that he was sending. So I guess the CIA had evidently picked those up because they never got transported because he ended up dying before he could send them
Yeah.
out. And in there there were letters that were really easy to decode, they said,
Hmm.
right? And he said it took our guys like a day to decode them. It was
Yeah.
super easy. And when we got to see the letters, on one of the letters, it said, should I kill him? And he was trying to say, or the captain was reading these letters because since they were handed from Claude to him, and he was like, well, how do you know he's talking about me? And he was like, well, you were the only person that he named in our interrogation in episode 2.
Yeah.
So essentially, it was just extra fuel to the flame because come to
Dumpling
find
knew.
out, we get to see a flashback as well. Dumpling knew, or he at least
Had
suspected
an
it was the
idea.
captain, but it just happened to be extra evidence towards the reason why Dumpling was the evil spy.
The evil guy.
Because
Yeah.
come to find out, this letter, or this codex letter that he was sending out to Saigon was actually put in the boxes by the captain
Yes, he
who was
was.
helping him with his candy business. So he basically planted evidence on Dumpling to make him seem even more crooked. And it just happened to be extra fuel in the fire as well, because he happened to be the one in episode 2 to name the captain, or the only person to name captain as being the spy. Yeah. So essentially it was hella confusing, crazy. Like if you didn't really pay attention, you might miss it and not see it. But
I had to rewatch it a couple of times, so I was lost during that.
Yeah,
that part. So.
It's a great it was a great mishap in the world of spy work, I guess you could say, because it definitely worked out in our spy's favor that we're following in this show. But yeah, after this, I mean, I guess they get ready to go to celebrate, right? So they go to a California
we took a turn.
Steakhouse.
We took a
crazy
turn,
right? Down Hollywood. We just went straight down Rodeo Drive and just went straight to Hollywood and decided, you know what, we're gonna go to a steakhouse. And at this steakhouse, we see all of Robert Downey Jr.'s characters in a circle at a table eating a steak, right? You got Professor Hammer.
Mm-hmm.
You got Congressman what's his name, Godwin.
Mm-hmm.
You also have Claude, who's there already in the car with him. And then we get introduced to one more character who is a film director,
Nico.
I guess he did some famous films in their world. Oh, okay. So it's not director Nico, just Nico. I think his name's Nico, right?
One more
he's
character. He's a filmmaker. No, he's a filmmaker.
Right.
Another Robert Downey Jr. character named Nico. He's a film director that's based off of Francis Ford Coppola, with the Chesticus hair out, the glasses. You know, he's a Hollywood bigwig. So he's doing a film about, I guess, the Vietnamese population. And he wants, or apparently the captain has been voluntold to be, I guess, the proofreader of the legitimacy of the script, as well as to handle the translation of the script to get him to another level of the circle, the inner circle in Hollywood or in America.
Right.
And there's some racist stuff that's being thrown around. And even you were like, yo, this is really racist.
Oh, this is really racist.
And for those who watched it, like, it's crossing lines, man. I felt uncomfortable. And every one of Robert Downey Jr.'s characters is laughing it off like it's a Tuesday. No big deal, right? Everyone's drinking wine, eating steak. Yeah, woo, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Take the job. You're good. So what winds up happening is that the captain wants the apology, right? Doesn't get the apology from Nico. What winds up happening is he gets the job, and then to celebrate, they're all in the back room with a bunch of strippers who are naked, and they're all doing blow off of these strippers, all of Robert Downey Jr.'s characters, while the captain is reading the script to the film in the champagne room. And I'm thinking, what is happening?
Yeah.
So,
and then you got Claude over there doing a solo.
Yep.
Claude over singing on the piano with one of the naked strippers over there. I'm like, you can sing, Claude? This is wild. Like, this is a lot going on.
We learned so many things, bro.
Say they wanted something sweet, and voila, there they are. But I mean, obviously, yeah. And then the show gets ready to pan out, and we see that he gets ready to start immersing himself in this script, right? I think it was called The Hamlet, is what it was called. Not sure what that was the title. So he's reading the script, and it kind of takes him back to his days in Saigon as being a young boy and being teased, and all of the rigorous misbehaviors that he had to deal with as an adolescent. And it takes him back to being there with his mom, and her super positive attitude towards him suffering all these different things as a kid, and not knowing his dad, and not knowing really where he came from, or who he really is. And he always finds something to turn into. Two different pictures always come together. Right. So we got to see that there was this like shaded moon lamp that was at the top in his house. And for some reason that moon lamp turned into a smiley face,
which was a smiley face on the burger,
which is kind of also the reference to the egg. Right, on the burger bag, right?
Yes.
And as he obviously is suffering now from PTSD from his first actual kill, he turns over to his right, and he sees Dumpling next to him with a burger bag stuck to his face. Yep. And then we get the perspective of what Dumpling is seeing as the captain gets ready to reach to pull the bag off his head, and Dumpling is shaking his head like, don't do it. Don't do it.
You did
it. He pulls the bag off his head, and we see now that Dumpling's face has turned into that smiley face that's on the bag, because this part of his cheek is gone. Crazy. With stitches on it. It's super crazy.
And that's how the episode ends. I didn't think they were going to show that. To be honest with you. We're like, what the hell, man?
That's it. There was no like lead into the next episode. It was just like, well, strippers, dead, scary man. You see dead people now. This is it. You see ghosts now. That's it, sir.
That's what we are. PTSD. You see ghosts.
Enjoy your new gifts.
So, which also leads to, and we can wrap it up here. I just want to throw out a theory that maybe part of the reason
go for it.
He is a unreliable narrator is because of his PTSD. So now that he's got captured, his brain is fried. So he doesn't know what to write, what to say. So he's just scattered everywhere. And everyone looks like Robert Downey Jr. Apparently, that's how he views all Americans. And I don't know what's going to happen next episode. So
I don't either. I don't even think I have a prediction.
Y'all let us
for next
know.
episode.
Yeah, y'all let us know in the comments, because I don't even
let us know in the comments. But I enjoy this episode. It was definitely all over the map, but I would give it still a 4 out of 5. Same. What would you give it, Damien?
Get a 4 out of 5.
Same. 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. Well, guys, let us know in the comments below what you like, what you dislike, what you want to see more of in the next episode, episode 4. Make sure you check out the Sympathizer. Episode 3, Love It or Leave It, which premieres on April 28th at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on HBO and Max. If you guys like reviews and more reviews like this, go ahead and check us out at biggoldbeltmedia.com. Until next time, peace.
Half-Vietnamese.